Hi guys, Wheelie here. Today I'm making Christmas bells. These are really simple little Christmas tree decorations. They take less than 10 minutes to whip up and they only use a little bit of yarn, so you should be able to pull something out of your stash to make them. I'm using 8-ply acrylic yarn in sun yellow. The thickness of yarn you use will determine the size of your bell, but there is no right or wrong. You'll need scissors for snipping, a needle for the tails and to help you make the loop, and of course your trusty hook. I'm using a 4mm hook. You should go with the size that your yarn label recommends. We'll start with a magic circle, but I'd like you to leave a really long tail. Think a good 30 something centimeters, 13 inches. We're going to use the tail to make the loop the bell will hang from. If you're not confident with magic circles, the link on the screen right now will take you to a video that will walk you through a magic circle nice and slowly. So you can watch that and come back and join me for round 1. Make sure you remember the extra long tail. Once you have your circle, we're going to work 10 single crochets into it. There's no need to chain 1 to get up to height. The chain that secured the circle will do. So just insert your hook. You should have 1 loop, your working loop, and 2 strands of yarn on your hook. 1 is the circle and 1 is its tail. Yarn over and pull up a loop. There are 2 loops on the hook. Yarn over and pull through both loops. You'll need another 9 single crochets for round 1. Make sure you work them over the tail of the circle or your circle will be more frustrating than magical. I'll see you when you have 10 single crochets. When you have 10 single crochets, tighten up your circle a little, just enough to bring the ends close enough together that you'll be able to get your hook under the first single crochet. If you have trouble recognizing your stitches, you can find the first stitch by counting back to it from the last stitch you made. Don't count this loop on the hook, count the V's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. The 10th one you count will be the top of your first single crochet. When you've found it, slip your hook under the top of it, but we aren't going to slip stitch. This pattern is worked in a continuous round so that our tiny bell isn't 50% seam. So once your hook is in the top of that first single crochet, work a single crochet right there. This is the first stitch in round 2. So grab your stitch marker or safety pin and mark this stitch. Then tighten up your circle completely. Give that extra long tail a good hard pull. Now that's done, you can continue round 2, which is very simple. You'll put 1 single crochet into each stitch from the round below. You'll have a stitch count of 10, but you'll know you've reached the end of the round when you work into the stitch that's next to the stitch marker. I'll see you there. Take out the stitch marker and start round 3 by working a single crochet into this now empty spot. This is your first stitch of the round, so pop the marker in the top of it. Round 3 is exactly like round 2, just single crochet around the circle until you reach the stitch marker, and we'll start round 4 together. At the end of round 3, tighten up the circle if it's slipping open at all and flip your work out. It'll be easier to work around the outside from this point, which means the tail from your magic circle will be inside this little, I don't know, thimble shape we've made. Rounds 4 and 5 are both exactly like round 3, so I'll leave you to work 2 rounds this time. 1 single crochet in each stitch, 10 stitches in a round. I'll meet you at round 6 where the pattern changes. Round 6, do the usual things. Take out the stitch marker, work your first stitch, put the stitch marker back in. Now, this round has some increases. Increases are when you put an extra stitch in. We're going to put an extra stitch in the first space. Just squish a second stitch in with your first stitch. And then put 1 stitch in the next space. And increase in the stitch after. The pattern for round 6 is an increase in every other space. I'll see you when you're at the marker. If you followed the pattern, you'll finish in the stitch before the marker with stitch number 15, which isn't an increase. For the 7th and final round, work your first single crochet, pop your marker back in, and then work an increase. For this round, we're going to increase every 3rd space, which means the next 2 spaces just get 1 stitch. And the one after will get 2. And that pattern repeats around the circle. You'll have 20 stitches at the end of this round, and I'll meet you there. That finishes off the body of this little bell. Take the stitch marker out for the last time, grab your scissors and your needle, and we're going to cut this yarn. Slip the hook out. I haven't fastened off in any way, I'm just sliding the hook out and pulling out the working loop. Thread this tail onto your needle and work an invisible join with me. A slip stitch is the other option for finishing, and if you'd rather do that, please do, but I'm going to use an invisible join so that the edge of my bell will be really neat. Invisible joins are worked one stitch to the left of the stitch you'd normally slip stitch to. So we would normally slip stitch just here, we move one stitch to the left. Slip your needle under 2 loops of that stitch coming from the inside of the bell to the outside. Pull the yarn through. Now locate the last stitch you made, which is this one, and where the yarn is coming out of the stitch. Insert your needle into the spot the yarn is coming out from. Pull it through and tighten it up a little so you can see we've made something that looks very like the top of a stitch. Now weave that tail in as you normally would by over sewing 3 times to keep it secure. Snip that off. Do a little bit of shaping, and here is our bell. Now at this stage I've been reliably informed that it looks more like a gumnut baby hat, but when we put the loop on it and perhaps add a little bow or some holly, it will look more like a bell than anything else. Let's make the loop. Start by threading the long tail from your magic circle onto your needle. Flip the bell inside out and tighten the circle completely. Really pull on the tail and then weave it in. See how the tail is heading in this direction? Take it a little bit further in the direction it's already heading. Slip your needle into the tunnel of stitches at the center and take it a little way along, and then backstitch. 3 back stitches will do the trick. Take the needle down through the center of the circle and meet it on the other side. Flip the bell the right way out. I can't resist shaping it again, though we're going to turn it inside out again in a moment. We're going to make a little loop so that we can begin crocheting. To do that, you need to make a stitch close to the center of the circle. Pull it through, but don't close it up. You want to leave yourself enough room to get your hook in it. Then I want you to secure that loop by back stitching. That will do. Now get rid of the needle. Put it safely away so you don't stab yourself later. Pop your hook into the little loop that we just made at the top of the bell so that we can start chaining. We're going to chain 20. Here is my chain of 20. It's used up almost all of the extra long tail. Slip your hook out and thread the tail onto your needle. Tighten up that last chain. Take the needle down into the center of the circle again. Flip the bell inside out and weave in this final tail. Snip that. Flip it right way out. Shape it a little and you can see we have a lovely little Christmas bell. It is cute as it is, and it's a really simple Christmas decoration, but I think it's about 100% cuter if you add a little embellishment. It only needs something very simple. Try tying a bow with a piece of contrasting color yarn and sewing it in place. That's what I've done with this bell here. Or alternatively, you could go for something a little fancier and make yourself a simplified sprig of holly and sew that onto your bell. That also looks really cute. Thanks so much for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up and I look forward to seeing you next time. Merry Christmas!